Iburu, Iboya, Ibuche, everybody in Cyberland. It's your favorite Babalao. At least I hope so. Odu Ika coming at you with another great podcast. Podcast number 2, people. Podcast number 2. My goal is to make this a weekly type event, right? So that means every week I'm going to come out with something new. So this one took a little bit, right? Because I was making sure I stood registered on Amazon Music. I'm on Apple Podcasts. I'm on Spotify now. I'm on Google Podcasts. I'm on Podcast Index, Podcast Addicts, Deezer. And I'm putting myself on a few other ones under the Apple Podcast umbrella. But what does that mean? That means that the world is in for an awakening. The world is in for some raw content. And that means that I want to make sure that we're differentiating the two, right? There's something that I do on YouTube, right? That's educational, very foundational. It's instructional to a certain point, right? Because my job is not to give up secrets, but my job is to teach, because that's what Ifa mandates that we do. But I wanted to kind of chat with you guys about something else, right? I wanted to kind of chat with you about something that we call the 16 mandates of Ifa. And things that just boil me up, man. Let me tell you, they just boil me up, because I am in the mindset that if people can just follow the 16 mandates of Ifa, this world would just be a better place. Just being real talk, right? Just real talk, right? And when I talk about the 16 mandates of Ifa, I'm literally talking about in the Odu of Ika Fun, right? We talk about where Orumila, right, divined for the 16 elders. And they went for divination, and Orumila divined Ifa. And when he divined, he saw the sign of Ika Fun, or Ika Fun Fun. And basically, what the elders were trying to get to was, would they live, a long life under Olodumari's decree? Are they living to be the utmost top-notch citizens or top-notch followers of Olodumare, right? So, the diviner, Orumila in this case, right, told the 16 elders that they would live long in good health, but they had to respect and obey the 16 guiding laws that Ifa has mandated. Okay? So, what I want to do is I want to get down to the source. I want to get down to what does it truly mean, right? And, I was having this conversation with a godson of mine just recently, right? And I was trying to explain the concepts of being stoic, right? And when I talk about stoic, I'm talking about the concepts of you just can't care as much as you can, because in society, we've been taught to care so much that it's clouded our very judgment of doing the right thing, right? I know that sounds like something very hard to grasp, right? But think about it. Think about it. We have been programmed to live and think a certain type of way. We've been programmed to truly embody the aspects of different paths are for different genders. Different paths are for different people. Or, you can't do this, you can't do that. But no one really truly explains the why, right? right? It reminds me of the Catholics, right? In the Catholic Church. And no offense to the Catholics and the Christians, I respect you all, right? Because Ifa tells me I have to have religious tolerance, right? And I respect Ifa, so therefore I know that Ifa is onto something. But not only that, I embody that, right? Because I say, hey, you know what? I respect everyone because everyone at a certain point in time had a prophet in their faith. Whether it was Buddha, whether it's Muhammad, whether it was Jesus, whether it was Orumila. That's what Ifa preaches. Who am I to argue with that, right? But let's dig a little deeper. Right? Let's dig a little deeper, right? Because I think it's something bigger than that. And that's why we have to dig into the Odu of Ika Fun. Right? The first thing that Ika Fun says is you should not lie. I'm under the mindset that if your spouse or intimate partner or whatever you want to call this person, right, says, is this dress or these pants or these whatevers, are they fit me too tight? Do I look fat? Do I look this? You need to be honest. You need to be honest, right? Because even the white lie can turn into something big. In society, think about how much greater things would be if we weren't so wrapped up into our feelings. And this goes back to my stoic personality, right? If you're a stoic, you're not worried about the past. You're not really worried about what people truly think because you're focusing on the future. You're focusing on the now. You're focusing on how do you become a better person. You're focusing not on everyone's opinion, but what matters. So when I say you should not lie, this is not a thou shalt not lie. No. Understand what you're getting yourself into. It's like the old saying, if you ain't got nothing nice to say, don't say nothing at all. Sometimes, even in Spanish, calladito te ve más bonito, right? Basically means the quieter you are, the better you look. Because sometimes your mouth gets you in trouble. And let me explain a little bit more on that. There are other odus of Ifa in certain philosophies of Ifa where we look at Eshu as a component of evolution. Eshu is a component that drives change. And Eshu is a representation of your tongue. Think about it, right? The roof of your mouth is Olorum. The bottom of your mouth is Orum. Some may even say that your mouth represents the world, Aye, right? The earth. But the tongue belongs to Eshu. That's why the tongue can cut. That's why the tongue, if not careful, will start wars. All wars began when people had the inability to communicate properly. When people could not be trusted. When people did not give it their all to be honest brokers. And they broke that pact, that respect, that ethical and that moral line. The tongue is a dangerous thing that we just have to look out for. And we got to be careful. All right, that's one. So then you go to number 2, right? Basically, don't do things that you have no clue how to do. Or don't do things that you don't have permission to do. So therefore, this is a very simple rule, right? We don't necessarily need to take things by the letter of the law, folks. The idea is to look at it and to expand on its words. It is talking about the concepts of ceremony, the concepts of initiation. Don't do things you don't have the knowledge of. No different than if you are an electrician, what are you doing being a plumber? Right? If you don't know how to build something to code of that society or where you live, you have no business doing it. There's another Odu of Ifa where we talk about where the young try to be better than the old. And the young thought they knew it all. And these young bucks messed it all up because they were building houses for people. And they noticed that all the elders were taking all the money, but they were working hard. And they didn't realize that they didn't truly understand how to build the homes so they can sustain, right? The elements, sustain nature. And they were building things and they were doing it faster, sure. And they were doing it probably a little cheaper, sure. And the elders were losing the business, and because the young ones started up their own. But soon enough, these houses started to fall apart. These houses were cheap. These houses were kind of what you see today if you truly think about it, right? The houses before were sturdy. You know, they had some pride behind it. Nowadays, it's all sheetrock and at best wood, right? It's not like that good old brick, good old, red walls, that you see in the cities and those colonials. Those are strong houses. But Ika Fun was trying to tell the elders that they have to be very careful about doing things without having the complete knowledge of it. It's no different than what we experience today in society in 2023. How many people are doing things blindly without truly understanding the magnitude of that decision, right? So we have to be mindful. If you don't understand the intricate nature of what you are about to do, don't do it, because you're going to regret it later. And it's rule number 2. Don't do it, right? Don't do it. Don't perform initiations, ebos, divinations, but don't just keep it spiritual, guys. Keep it physical. Then we look at number 3. Don't mislead people, right? Don't misrepresent yourself, or don't misrepresent what you can do. And I see this problem a lot with politicians in the private sector, whenever there's a strong hierarchy of things, right? Where people are trying to mislead, or people are trying to manipulate, or people are trying to just gather, right? They're just trying to gather facts. I'm going to go out and say it. I'm going to jump on a limb, and you guys are going to hate me for it, maybe. Who knows? Let's see. But Trump, right? If there was one thing I knew about President Trump, right, when he was in office, that he was going to say whatever was on his mind. Very unfiltered. His press secretary must have drank him or herself to sleep every night, because he was very unfiltered. But you almost had to appreciate it because, was he misleading? I think he was misleading less than the rest. Yes, misleading less than the rest. I'm not saying he was right for what he's done or what he said or etc. I'm just saying that I can appreciate some honesty when it comes to the political realms. I can appreciate some honesty when people are dancing around questions because they're on a news outlet. I can appreciate honesty, right, when people are just telling me how they're feeling when they're feeling. I can appreciate honesty instead of something that's scripted on a card or on a teleprompt, or if you're looking me eye to eye and you're giving me some substantial data instead of just blowing smoke. Something that is supported with facts is the goal, people. That's why politics and me, we don't mix very well. We just don't. Because I'm a person that says, show me the data, right? Show me the data. Global warming, show me the data. Okay, I see some things that are melting. I see some things that are reacting to our atmosphere and our oceans. I can see the increased levels of things. I can see where there can be some damage in the ozone with emissions. I can see a lot of those things. But I go back to my stoic personality. Can I control China? Because my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, Asia produces more emissions than anybody else. Even if I was to be king for a day in the United States of America, this great country, there is no way that I'm going to be able to solve the emission problems of the world. When we talk about green energy, there's no way that I'm going to solve the problem. Now, someone has to start somewhere. I get that. And that's honorable, right? That's respectable. But we got to be realistic that if we don't come together to solve these major problems like global warming, those type of things matter. But, one country is not going to make a dent. This is a earth problem. This is a people problem. This is a everybody problem. So don't mislead people. Let's talk the facts. Let's control what we can control, because that's another personality of people that are stoic. People only want to control what they can control, what they have the ability to wrap their hands around, what they can help manipulate, right, into a more positive outcome for them and the things that they can affect. It just happens to be that CEOs and politicians and even actors and actresses and famous people have the ability to influence massive people. But even then, if they're ignorant as hell, right, then that means their followers have the possibility of being ignorant if they're following every word that these people are saying. So I want to challenge everybody. Don't be misled. Do your research. Don't follow wrong information. Because number 3, Odu Ika Fun, don't mislead people with wrong information. Therefore, take it upon yourself not to be misled. Right? Don't misrepresent yourself. If you're not a priest, you're not a priest. If you're not a priestess, you're not a priestess. If you're not who you say you are and you want to walk this world being phony, don't drag anybody down with you. How about that? Or just be a good person. Start to follow the 16 mandates of Ifa. Then we start talking about, you should not deceive people, right? Deceive. It's kind of like mislead, but deceive is a little bit more active. This is more of an action, right? This is more of what I see, especially in this faith is, guys, come on, we got to be real. Real talk here, right? I heard of people charging hundreds and hundreds of dollars for a consultation, right? All right, now I get it. Your value goes up with time, right? Experience, the amount of time you've had as a certain priest or a priestess matters. Those things should count. You should not have to stay, in the bottom of the barrel or as a new initiate because you've gained the knowledge and you are able to react to fire. You were able to save lives. You are here to save people. You are here to do God's work. And I'm okay with that. But let's not be abusive. Deceive people. Charging $500 for a consultation and you think that's okay? $1,000, $2,000 for an eleke ceremony, you think that's okay? Every time a bowl comes out, right, you got to give a goat to somebody, you think that's okay? I think we're being a little bit deceitful. There, right? For why? Because I think that we're looking at finances versus spirituality. Now, let's talk about spirituality. Are you deceiving people if you are trying to mount things that you don't know how to mount? I think that's deceitful. I think that's something we need to be mindful about. Now, let's just move on. Right? Number five. You should not claim any wisdom that you are not entitled to or you embody yourself. Don't be a hypocrite. Don't be a hypocrite. You gotta drink the Kool-Aid, man. You gotta drink the Kool-Aid. Don't be a hypocrite, right? So what does that mean? That means that, and this one's hard for a lot of people. A lot of people are really good at giving advice, but then when you look at their lives, they don't follow it. They are really good at maybe leading their own lives, but yet they have a hard time telling others how to lead theirs. Right? And this is a very mixed review, right? Sometimes people would tell you, I only care about myself and I don't care about nobody else. And I would say that That was not the intent. The intent is society. The intent is civilization. The intent is it takes a village to raise a kid. The intent is that we all got to put our part in, right? We just got to do things in a right way in order to be successful. So what Ifa is talking about, is don't claim to know something or give something out and you have no clue. And I see this a lot. People are just not humbled enough to say, I don't know. I can get back to you. Or maybe we just have to listen more and talk less. And then you gain the wisdom. Why? Because what's wisdom? Knowledge and understanding. That's why Orumila is wisdom. The Orisha wisdom. Because he embodies knowledge and understanding of the cosmos. Ileri Iping. He was witness to creation. That's where wisdom comes from. It's an equation, guys. Gals, we have to we gotta catch up. We gotta start doing what's right. With that, you have to humble yourself. You cannot be egotistical. You cannot allow yourself to drive or you lose sight of who you are. When you look yourself in the mirror, are you proud to say that I am an ethical, moral, and I start to follow the Odus of Ika Fun, right? Or the Odu of Ika Fun, right? Ika Fun. I'm sorry. I said that wrong, but Ika Fun. Right now, what does that mean? Humble yourself. Right? Don't try to be something that you're not. And humbling yourself, where I think we screw up the most is, like revenge. Revenge. Let me tell you this. Something that, I'm not trying to get into politics, right? But you look at the war in Russia and Ukraine. Russia is exponentially bigger than Ukraine. Ukraine has a lot of support from other people and other countries in order to fight the bigger country, right? So it's kind of like, people rallied up to support the little guy. That's what it looks like, right? And when you look at that and you think about that, you say, well, wow, okay. When's enough, right? If the big guy is losing and who's truly suffering are the people in that country, when is enough? When are we able to humble ourselves? And this is something that maybe you agree, don't agree, right? Countries are countries, right? If they want to invade something and they want to go in, you know what I mean? Got it. Treaties and politics and all the other stuff. I'm not even interested in any of that. But I think you have to understand when you're losing. Russia, you're losing. Humble yourselves. Take a step back and say, you know what? I screwed this one up. Because it's the people in Russia and the people in Ukraine that are really going to suffer. So then I challenge all world leaders. I challenge all presidents, prime ministers, kings, queens, dictators. When is enough for you to humble yourself and you say, you know what? Maybe I'm taking this a tad bit too far. Maybe, just maybe, I have to do what's right. Not that I always have to be right. I just got to do what's right. Then as you move on, right? Let's keep it moving. Because I just realized I'm mumbling too much. I'm babbling. We're at 23 minutes, right? So then I don't want to keep you guys, but I want to get through these mandates, right? You find yourself with number 7, right? Don't be treacherous. Don't be plotting. Don't be trying to, seek advantages on the backs of others, right? You have to be careful that you are not trying to wrong over others in order to gain, benefits for you. If you are riding on the back of other people, if you are riding the coattails, like they like to say, right? I would tell you, be mindful. Be mindful. Are you doing that in a secretive way? Are you doing that as a plot? Are you doing that and you know you're doing it. You know what I mean? I think that's what bothers me the most. Appreciate your team. Appreciate the folks that are working with you or working for you. Allow yourself to be humble. Allow yourself to take advantage of the opportunities that you put in place or the opportunities that present themselves. But don't be treacherous about it. Don't be that guy, right? Don't be that gal. Don't be that person, right? That nobody wants to be or wants to work for, right? And you got to be like that both spiritually and physically. Because if you are running an isla, do you think anybody wants to be with you? If all you're doing is trying to be manipulative and treacherous, and all you're doing is having them constantly clean everything and do everything, and maybe it's your right as an elder. Maybe I maybe give you that to a certain extent, but you got to put in some work. Come on, guys, we're past those times. We are past those times. But if they have to learn, they got to learn. Right, I remember the movie Karate Kid, right? He was on wax on, wax off, right? And the kid would get upset. He's like, I'm not learning nothing. And, he says, well, defend yourself, right? He says, show me an upper hand block and a lower hand block. And he started to notice that he was following the same patterns. Mr. Miyagi, that's leading. That's a leader. He made him do things, but it was because he was reinforcing techniques. He was reinforcing things. That's a leader. That's the spiritual others I want to work for. Those are the ones that make sense to me. Be that person. Be a good person. Number 8, right? You have to take taboos seriously, guys. You got to take it bold seriously, okay? I tell people all the time that, don't try to find a loophole. Don't try to find, ways around taboos. Don't be that person. You just cannot be that person. You have to be mindful that at the end of the day, you cannot just constantly be searching for ways around things that you asked Ifa for. Right? Think about it. So now, ultimately, at the end of the day, all right, you get a consultation. It marks certain things. And next thing you know, you're like, you know what? I'm not going to do this, but I'm going to do this. You asked for a rooster, but I'm going to give him an apple. I can't do this, or I don't want to do this, or I don't want to do that. Why'd you even do the consultation to begin with? Why even worry about divination if you're not going to concede? Why are you going to go through consecrations if you're not going to follow the rules? Why are you going to be a lawyer if you're not going to follow the rules of the bar and the ethics codes? Why are you going to be a doctor if you're going to cut corners and be unethical? Why are you know what I mean? So I can say this for 100 different things. And this is not a bash on anybody. This is just that we got to be real. We got to be real. That's what kills me about even, our world. We begin to kind of see that, we elect officials and honestly, I don't truly believe, right, that they're taking the taboo seriously, right? Hey, I raised my hand, right? Because here's another one, right? You raise your hands and you do an oath. And in that oath, what do you try to do? I try to find loopholes. When you see that laws are enacted in certain states and governments, what do you try to do? I'm trying to find a loophole. Even when you file your taxes, the first thing you want to do is find a loophole. That's not right. Be careful, people. Don't sell yourself short. Just don't do it, right? Don't break the taboos. Take all the taboos seriously. In this spiritual faith, Orishas have their own taboos. Odus have their own taboos. When you combine those two, you got to respect the process and you got to respect the taboos. You asked for it, so why are you getting mad at it? Always be trustworthy, people, right? Because the taboos is number 8 and 9. Number 10, be trustworthy. Be loyal.